The original inspiration for Boss You Around came from, as with anything I create, so many different directions. I have been in love with the Nine Inch Nails song Closer for like my whole life. I love how dirty it is. I love how like raunchy it is. I love how sexy it is. And back when I was doing burlesque, I was like obsessively watching burlesque performances. And there are some like super iconic ones. And Michelle L'Amour, who's an incredible, so sexy burlesque performer, did a routine to Nine Inch Nails Closer with like a ballet bar, which was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. So it gave me this, like, whenever you see a really great dance performance to a piece of music, it kind of like changes the context of the piece forever. So I always think of that performance when I think of or hear the song Closer by Nine Inch Nails. But, you know, I know that song is supposed to be kinky, but there is a like potentially misogynistic reading that one could do into the lyrics of the song. You know, it could just be kink, but also nothing exists in a vacuum. And I started to have these feelings at some point that, like, you know, kink is subversive and it's supposed to be subversive, but I didn't always feel like I was being subversive when I was being topped by like a cis man. And I mean, obviously, like, feminine desire is subversive, and like taking, you know, bottoming or subbing can be liberating because you're like consenting to the power play, and like that's part of the fun. And, you know, I think that like you can or can't, you know, you it's your prerogative to like question your preferences or not. And but there did come a point where I started to question mine, and I started to be like, you know, is this what I want? Do I feel safe in this context? Is there another possible, like, is there a place or a dynamic in a queer context that would feel even more liberating, that would feel even more subversive? But that's sort of like going around my asshole to get to my elbow as far as the storytelling goes. But it is relevant because when I would hear those lyrics, I'd be like, yes, I love, like, let me desecrate you, you know, let me penetrate you. You're just so like, fucking, yeah. But I wanted to like make something similar with a similar vibe, a similar like tonal like canvas to create on, but something that was like more queer, more feminist, and just wholly about like feminine desire outside of a place of like, let me ruin you, let me destroy you, let me like ravage you, and instead be something about like, you know, let me worship you, like Little Bottom, but while still being kind of like edgy and toppy and fun. And so, rewinding, the inspiration for this song happened at a time when I was a queer late bloomer. I didn't come out until I was, I always say 26, but it was like ages 24 to 26. Because as you know, coming out is not a one and done endeavor. And so I say, as you know, just assuming everyone who is engaging with my art is queer. As some of you may know, most of you probably. But I had been on this like sexual liberation journey within the context of this like straight passing. Both of myself and my partner at the time were assumed to be straight when we first got together. And through this relationship, as I was getting older and like craving more adventure and just like trying to find myself and find my truth and just like this thirst for experience, I got into kink and I started reading about it all the time. And I also was obsessed with polyamory and like how that all works, and feeling like that's what I need, like in order to stay in this relationship that I'd been in for many years. and to be able to like explore my queerness and like kink and like see who I am and what I like in the world. I just had been in like long-term monogamous relationship after long-term monogamous relationship with like brief little slut phases in between, and I was just like craving experience and craving freedom. And so I was like reading all this like erotica by queer poly people who are just like getting their freak on out in the world, and I was so inspired by it. And up until that point, like I had kinky relationships, but I didn't have the terminology for it. I wasn't like educated, and it was just sort of like something that I would stumble across and be like, oh, I like that. But it was always in the context, because I'd mostly been with cis straight men because I wasn't out yet. I'd exclusively been with cis straight men because I wasn't out yet. It was always like man in charge, woman submissive, and I loved it. I'm a great little bottom. I like killed the game actually. And I thought it was really fun, and it just like really turned me on and got me going. And I just sort of like, that was my identity. I was just sort of like, that's who I am. I'm a bottom. I'm like the best bottom in the world. And that's what I bring to like my sexual encounters. Along the same like path, as many of you might know, I was also exploring like gender stuff as I got older. I was just feeling a little bit more like wiggly than I previously ever had, except for when I was a kid and I was like a hardcore tomboy. And I've always like tried to navigate this realm of being like kind of butch but like really femme at the same time, and finding like love for my femininity through the idea of drag, and how like I can be high femme and feel comfortable in my own skin and in that persona if it's like extreme, if it's camp, if it's like Dolly Parton or Elvira, like that is, or Jessica Rabbit, like that's the realm of femininity I feel comfortable in like a, you know, traditional societal what like men want to marry or whatever. That never felt right to me or like appealed to me, you know, something like feminine and soft and like submissive interpersonally, and you know, never yearns for more, like never, doesn't have a lot of partners, like wasn't slutty, just like all the stuff. And also like the way the dressing, like sort of conservative, leave something to the imagination, like all that kind of stuff just didn't feel right, and I always felt uncomfortable in it. And I started hitting this place of like understanding that gender in general was a performance, and that maybe like I was more masculine than I ever gave myself credit for, because constantly I was bombarded my whole life with like, you're so feminine, you're so graceful, you're so feminine, you're so graceful, what happened to my sweet little girl? And it's like, I maybe was that until I was like 5 years old, but then I started getting in fist fights with boys because I was beating them at kickball. And like, you know, I was trying for the first time in my life to like make sense of it all and be like, maybe I can be all of it, you know, like maybe I don't have to pick and choose and like splice myself into parts in order to be like accepted. Maybe I can just be me. And this was sort of the first inkling of that. So I met this woman and we started a relationship while I was in my other relationship. And my first sexual encounters with a woman in my life, huge deal. Like the desire I felt was like on a whole nother level, and I was shocked by both the gender feelings it inspired in me and the top feelings it inspired in me. Like I was topping this person, and I had never even considered being in that role. I had never had anyone want me to be in that role. I had never, like, I always thought I was too shy or too much of a bottom to, didn't like to make decisions. Like it shocked me. It really shocked me. And this occurred organically. And I was so inspired by that experience, feeling like masculine in relationship to someone else, feeling like dominant in relationship to someone else, and also feeling the versatility and the gender fluidity of like my being. And I was just like really inspired and amazed by how I always use the metaphor of like, before I was coloring with like only black or white crayons, and after this experience I was just like, there is a whole 64 crayon spectrum of colors that I can choose from and use, and all of these like societal constructs and labels that I've been putting on myself or that were put on me and I just accepted, but they never felt right, maybe aren't right. And like, I don't have to be so quick to put myself in these categories. Instead, I can just like, and this is a life philosophy, not like outside of the realm of gender and sexuality, where like I can just live and flow and witness myself become, instead of trying to make myself fit in spaces that are too small for me. And that's where that came from. And the feelings that I convey in the song were honest, real, like kinky, and it is what it is. I'm also like a lifelong lover of werewolf stories, like werewolf movies, werewolf lore, and I have a playlist that is called Best Werewolf Songs of All Time. And this is true. From the time I was a kid, I just assumed certain songs were about werewolves and never questioned that they were about werewolves. And it wasn't until I was an adult and I was telling someone else about my favorite werewolf songs of all time that they were like, none of those songs, maybe one of those songs is about werewolves. Like the rest are just about the moon. Those songs include like Bad Moon Rising, Werewolves of London, obviously, Dancing in the Moonlight, you know, certain songs that I just like, whenever I hear them, werewolf imagery comes to mind. And yeah. So I also wanted to write something that had like kind of a werewolf edge, and one of my favorite songs my whole life, every time I hear it I think it's so sexy, is that I actually have to look up who it's by. Let's see. Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. Never ever would have figured that out. You know, it's that one. Hey there, little Red Riding Hood, you sure are looking good. You're everything a big bad wolf could want. I always thought it was so sexy from the time I was a kid. And I just wanted to like add another werewolf song to the lexicon to capture that same energy. So it's kind of the love child of like 9 Inch Nails Closer and Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, apparently, song Little Red Riding Hood. And, you know, all of the kinky, like, like somebody's on the prowl, like, oh baby, Wolfie's on the prowl. You look delicious when you pout, you know? And I wrote it in about 15 minutes, which is the same, that's all of my favorite songs of mine were written in about 15 minutes. Just like sat down, I was like, I want to write a song about this. Like I need to put these feelings into something, and it just came to me and it just fucking flowed. And a lot of the things that I say in the song are things that I said to that partner at the time, or things that I felt or thought. And I think it captures everything. It captures like the punk side of me, it captures the pop side of me, it captures the bratty side of me. I'm a bratty bottom and a bratty motherfucking top. And, you know, a like femme, gentle, top who could still, you know, like I can hit hard and stuff, but I'm just like, I'm not mean. And then the power bratty bottom, and it captures it all. And I feel like this is one of the most authentic like expressions of myself I've ever created. And I've had lovers since that partner. We broke up a long time ago. We weren't together that long. But I've had partners I've been with since that relationship who hear this song and they're like, that is so you. Like, that's exactly what it's like to fuck you. So if you ever wanted to know, just listen to this song. And that's how this one came to be. And I love it so much, and I hope you do too.